bows, you don't make them anymore, now you move into
I'm not saying I'm not making them anymore. I will make them again. It's just on hold at the moment because it's only 24 hours in a day and I'm struggling.
So while we're talking about horn bows and we move to other questions, you have some interesting stuff here to show us. So let's just, while we're there, of course you've seen this bow, which is actually very impressive, guys. It looks very, so let's say in the 10th century, but would it actually look similar to this? Would it be actually like that? Yeah. So we can say we actually can relive and touch history by
according to the grave findings, what you have in your hand is size
and we have
is exactly
some sort of understanding that this possibly were shot with the thumb rings because we have Hungarian rings. And
well, that's a debate.
It is debatable.
That's a debatable,
especially in the earlier times, isn't it?
Okay, that could be very controversial. What I'm going to say now. I'm going to say this anyway. According to my mindset and whatever I learned, and read in my life so far.
Your own research. Belongs to the topic,
my own research. I can say, there was no horse archers or nations coming out of Asia from the steppes who were not using a thumb release. I mean, 3-finger archery. That's a Western style, Mediterranean style release. I personally don't think it was used on the back of the horse, especially with a 100-pound bow. Because with a 100-pound bow, especially when you turn around and you try to shoot backwards, the arrow will fall off because the arrow is on the left side when you're using a 3-finger release, and it's just not possible, especially not on a galloping horse.
Are you a rider yourself?
No, unfortunately not. That's on my to-do list. And
yes, you can join me to to-do list. It's been on my list for a very long time. Actually, I've had interest in horses as well. But
I'm ashamed. I'm ashamed of myself not done it before, especially because my father was breeding horses. So we had horses.
So you lived around horses.
I had the chance to do it, and I never done it. Never done it, so it's
never too late. It's never too late. Never too late.
So I don't think any horse archer. I don't want to use the word nation, but like tribes came out of Asia and were not using a thumb release. That's just not possible.
Well, it's found all across Asia. From Japan through India and all the steppe people.
In Hungary, it's a debate because nobody ever found like a ring, basically. But you don't need to have a ring because at that time they might have just used boiled leather, which is exactly the same. And there is also indication, maybe the string was that wide, you didn't even need it.
Yeah, the historical strings seem to be much wider. But even in Poland, which archery wasn't a thing, we never learned archery. That was a part of our culture. There are finds of rings, thumb rings, in some graves and places when Poland in 15th, 16th century was a Commonwealth, a big country, reaching all the way to Black Sea. So the heavy influence of Ottoman, using bows and shooting. And we even have thumb rings from there, that period. In Serbia and Balkanic area.
Well, the Ottomans were not just making the bows for themselves, they were selling those bows. And also it was a war booty as well, but they were selling the bows off. Because
selling to mercenaries, people.
They were making the bows at the Crimea too, not just in Constantinople, which was called Istanbul at that point. They were making bows at the Crimea too. So, and more than likely, if you're talking about, I'm just changing the subject a little bit here, the original or very first type of Ottoman Turkish bow was the Tatar bow, and then it got smaller. So first, more than likely, after the Seljuk style bow, they started making like the Tatar style bow, and that was the original Turkish bow, I think. And but it's not, this is just,
Turkey also goes through the revival of the archery, and they, there are people who.
Well, they lost their archery tradition just like we did, and everyone else, and.
So we're reviving.
Yes, the Turkish completely lost it. It's amazing. They were the biggest ones, and then they completely lost it.
And were probably one of the empires that used it. They even cultivated flight shooting during when the bow was out of the military use. They still used it.
Yeah, but my bow making, just to go back to the very first topic, started off with horn bows.
So your heart is still there.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, horn bow is in my mind is a real thing.
So can you
Yes.
talk about these things we
Yes.
have here, which probably some of the viewers have never seen. And,
yes, I have a couple of items here just to show you guys how hornbows were made and what do you actually need to make a hornbow. Which
and also the question that comes along: why are they so expensive?
The hornbows.
Or are they? Or are they expensive?
It takes 2 years to make. You need skills to make, and it's quite expensive because I can show you some of the.
So I would say straight away, it's not fair to compare them to laminated modern bows in terms, because for people, especially new people to archery, people sometimes say, "Oh, do you have a horn bow?" And you'll say, "Oh, you can get fiberglass bow for, I don't know, $80. You can get laminated bow from anything 300 to 500. But when it comes to horn bows, we're talking about £2,000 plus, and as you said, 2-year making, so, and people always say, "Oh, why is it better? Is it pros and cons?" But I think but tell us more about
for a regular archery. For the regular archer, you want to have a modern synthetic bow, which is a laminated bow, a fiberglass bow. But if you really, want to go further than that, and you want to, interested in historical archery, then hornbow is definitely something. It's you're gonna be proud of yourself.
So let's say you're an English shooter and you can shoot a laminated stick, but if you really want to feel, let's say, the U-boat that the people during medieval period shot, you still need to pay £1,000 for it, because finding the right stave for it, even the staves at the time had to be imported from Alps,
Spain,
Spain or Alpine,
they were bringing it from Spain.
because they needed a specific type of
the Mediterranean.
Mediterranean. Now these days, during 20th century, you get cheaper because we can get them from Pacific area, which at the time, of course, that was not possible.
Yeah,
well, they in high altitude.
Canada, they were bringing from Canada.
So here, what we have here.
Right. Yeah. I first, well, when you make a hornbow, really you need the core. The core is wood. Wood can be maple or ash, hardwood. Or if you just look at the Turkish bows, that's you can tell definitely they were all made with maple. Maple is, and I can, even when I'm building laminated bows, maple is the best.
Good wood.
Best
to start
with
for the core.
Yeah, it's an all-around wood. It's because when you're building laminated bows, you need to look at the poundage, what you want to achieve, what sort of bow you're building. Some of the wood is just not suitable for heavy poundage bows. Maple is an all around.
So you can use them for some low poundage up to 5.
Yeah, maple is good, but you have to.
Is it European maple? Maple you find here, or you need to source it out from?
European maple, yeah, European maple. Let's start with the core. This is the core. This is a steam bent wood. I banned this, I think, 80 years ago or something like that. So.
Still here. That's a project never happened.
Yeah, well, this is actually a Tatar bow core. Tatar bows.
So it's always made in 2 pieces?
No, 5.
Sometimes
5. You only see 2 pieces here, but it's actually, the Tatar bow was built with 5 pieces. 5 pieces. So these are the limbs. You look at the limbs now.
So
and you need to have a grip area here, the riser, the grip, and it needs to be spliced in with a V splice on both ends.
And this here historically was also made.
Yes, and that's how you join it together. And this is the Kosan area basically here, and then you need to splice in with a V splice here the tip.
And so tip would be made out of.
Sorry. Well, normally you just want to stick to maple, and so that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's 5 pieces. But also the Turks made 3-piece bows. This is a 5-piece design, and the 3-piece design. I got one here just to show that the tip is already attached to it. So you bend it with the tip, but this was quite also dried out and broke. But
so this will be for the Tatar, for the Turkish bow.
Yeah, this is a Turkish bow. So you need 2 of these, and that's 3-piece because you have the grip here, and you have the limb and the Kosan and the tip. So that was a 3-piece design. But you can have some Turkish bows were built with a 5-piece design. So it's literally what you need to look at is what sort of wood is available around you when you go out and select the wood. Because you need to look at the grain pattern. The grain pattern of the wood is the most important thing. You need to find a wood where the grain runs all the way till the end, straight line. So you don't cut through it, because if you cut through it, it will break.
We can.
Yeah. So you need to steam bend the wood core, then you need to dry it, glue it together, and for the glue you are using, the Turks are using fish bladder glue. Fish bladder glue. From the sturgeon. Sturgeon fish.
What would you use?
Well, I used fish bladder glue at some
So when
point.
you make a hornbow, you will always use all natural materials, no modern glues, modern synthetic.
So that means if you pick up a hornbow, which you spend 2,000 British pounds on, and you just put it in a pool of water for 2 days, it's gonna fall apart.
It's gonna dissolve into pieces.
It's gonna dissolve. Yeah. So basically,
this is when you make a bow like this, would you give people warranty for it? Any aftercare?
I don't sell hornbows at the moment,
but
so you would give some. You would give some on it, obviously, yeah. But so I'm just gonna put some in my hand. This is glue. This is like a granulate. This is actually hide glue. I don't know if you can see it or not. It's hide glue.
Yeah, I can. Yes.
Hide glue. So you need to dissolve the hide glue in water. You can make a solution for the wood, normally 25, 30, 35%. You know, you can make it really strong, and that's how they did it originally. Glued the bow core together, and once you have the bow core glued together, then you need to find the suitable horn. Many bowyers actually starting with the horn first, so we're talking about buffalo.
A very impressive piece, by the way.
This is the buffalo horn, and
this is water buffalo.
Water buffalo, yeah, water buffalo horn from Asia, and the only part of the horn you can actually use is the outer curvature here. So it's already been cut off. So this is actually, it goes in the bin. This is useless to me. No.
So you already taken what you needed?
Yeah, I already took what I needed. So this piece is useless. Well, you can use it for like on the old style bows, like the Magyar bow, you can on the riser, on the grip as a you know, like a
extra cover,
and your arrows are not damaging the bow, for example. So yeah, this is the buffalo horn, water buffalo horn. So you basically cut a strip from that side, from the outer curvature of the horn, and then you end up with something like this. And then you need to flatten it and cut it to shape. So normally you go down to 4 millimeters normally, and you need to taper it as well, so you can actually control how the bow is bending once it's glued on the core. So it's going on the core like that. Let me just put this on the side. It goes on like that. But obviously you need to glue it on, and it will be on like that. So you glue it on. So I don't know if you can see it or not. It goes like that. So if you pick up that bow, you can show how it looks like on the bow, on the belly side. On the belly side of the bow, that's where the buffalo horn is glued on.
So this is also buffalo.
That is buffalo horn. Yeah, that is buffalo horn. So on that bow you don't see the core itself, because it's covered on the belly side with the horn, and on the back you have sinew. Sinew is animal tendon. Normally you use deer tendon from the animal's leg. So I got it here.
In the raw state.
This is the ancient fiberglass, basically.
Ancient fiberglass.
Ancient fiberglass. This is already processed sinew. So if you just pull it out, this is what you have here. It looks like a rope, but this is muscle, okay? So this is muscle, animal muscle, tendon.
So that's what gives the bow the flexibility at the top bit.
So when you use a horn bow and you actually remove the string from the bow, you can see the bow moving, retracting back to its original shape, because the muscle is retracting and going back. So horn bows are...
some of the bows and unstrung shape, probably people have seen the horn bows, they're actually going back on themselves into C bow shapes.
If you string this up and you use it for a little bit, more than likely it would end up in a little bit slightly deflex shape. It would have, in English you would call it string follow. It would have that. But in a couple of days, maybe 4 or 5 days, it would go back to its...
Do we have string for this, by the way?
Over there, yeah, there's some.
It'd be nice to string this and see later on.
Yeah, and so the sinew is actually getting glued on the back side of the bow, and you need to use several layers. Normally you use 120 grams
So how do you,
of
let's
sinew.
say, how do you estimate the poundage of the bow? Let's say you get an order and somebody wants 80 pounds at whatever drop. How do you know what proportions? And
When it comes to horn bows, it's quite difficult, but normally you can play around with the thickness of the horn,
so you can
thickness of the horn,
if it's too big,
and also
how much you can add.
how much you add on top, because you put layers on it. Normally you put 3 layers of sinew on it in the right method, because you can't just chuck it on. You need to glue it in a certain way, and you actually glue more sinew. If you pick it up, you can feel on the bow on here. You will feel it's thicker here than it starts.
Yes.
Can you feel it? It's sort of taper. That's like an ancient taper.
But it actually is tapered down to the
But
side
you can
as
see
well.
that it's rounded, yeah.
Yeah, it is.
So you can see, you can control the bending
It's
shape of the bow.
just out of topic. Is this? I found this on the bows you make, the lamination ones. They also seem to be having tapered, which is very rarely by any other bowyers or laminated bows. It's simply just it's probably easier to do, but
Well,
it's,
obviously, yeah.
But
it's a lot more work goes in it, but
Yeah.
I taper the lamination
and
bows as well.
what's the advantages of that, the tapering the lamination?
Well, when you're tapering the lamination, you can control the bending section of the bow, because you can decide where you want that limb
to bend,
yeah, because if you start making the bow bending nearer to the riser, that means the chances are higher for breaking that bow.
This,
Yeah. But the bow gets faster, obviously, because you have a longer working area
yes,
for the
the
limb.
power stroke between.
Yeah, but original horn bows were mainly bending at the middle of the limb. So
with any design or with
most of these, if
the
you look
long
at
bending section.
if you look at even the 9th, 10th century Magyar bows or the Turkish Tatar bows, they were all not bending really at the riser, at the grip. They were bending a little bit further away. If you look at the Korean bows, they are all bent like that. Nearly, the Korean bow is almost a square shape when you actually bend it. But Turks were making flight bows as well.
Yes.
Those bows were bending very close to the grip, and that made the bow faster. But obviously, that means the lifetime of the bow is reduced.
Mm-hmm.
So
But it's a very specialized bow for a very specialized purpose. So I guess there's it's not used in wars. It's not a tool. If it breaks, we're just going to have a go another year.
It was quite usual for those bows to drop the string.
Yes.
So after just one shot, string came off, and also even if it didn't come off, they took the string off, because when it comes to horn bows can lose the poundage after a couple of shots. So you need to take the string off if you're using flight archery, and let the bow rest a little bit, so the muscles or the.
Is this something you ever practiced? You ever did flight archery, flight bow?
I did flight archery with this particular bow in 2016.
Did you enjoy it more than cloud?
I loved it. It's a difficult thing. You need a special set of arrows, a special set of bow, because I mean, there are rules when it comes to flight archery. I'm sure some of you already tried it, and it's fascinating. But there are brackets, like let's say 40 to 50 or 45 to 50. So you really want to be 49.9 at your draw length with the specific arrow you have.
Yes.
So you need to really fine tune. It's everything about fine tuning there. I've seen bows there I've never seen in my life there, and then people just just really into it,
So,
just.
So Formula One of archery.
Yeah,
fine
it's a different thing.
everything
It's a different thing. It's worth to try at least once. I enjoyed it, but my equipment wasn't really tuned and ready for that sort of
But you
archery.
still enjoyed it.
I absolutely loved it. Yeah, I absolutely loved it. I didn't reach a great distance with the horn bow, but I was still happy. I built the bow myself. It worked, and arrows flew. So
this is also something we're working on for the next shoot, because I think many of us go out there and shoot in a local target club, maybe 3D club, field shooting, but none of us could ever actually go and shoot as far as possible.
There is a flight archery competition here in the UK. I mean, we had it pre-COVID, so I'm sure it's going to start again. And I think the one I entered, that was in 2016 at Holmes Chapel. So it's near Leeds. It was in the Second World War airfield. It was excellent. But obviously, when you shoot the arrows, then everyone goes collect the arrows, and
That takes long time.
well, I found mine safely. Well, there was some other guys. They had to walk like half a mile or something like
Yes.
that, or more. So it was just insane. It was just fascinating
Yeah,
to
the
see.
world record's around 600 miles.
Yeah, I've seen bows there which didn't even look bows. They looked something else. I mean, amazing. But I loved it. I also loved it. And I was using a thumb release there, and that drew some attention, obviously.
Also,
Because-
not really
yeah,
on 3
yeah.
fingers.
It wasn't just me who were using thumb release, it were 3 of us. All 3 of us were.
That drew attention.
Yeah, people came
I
to
think
us and
it does, especially to people who love archery. It's something that.
they were interested. And
Yeah,
they wanted to
exactly.
see it,
It just brings interest. They need to be demonized. So we moved on to sinew. So we just
Yeah, the
used
sinew. Yeah, the sinew. I showed the sinew. So you need basically a wood core, horn, sinew, the glue, and other than that, you just need fire and water and a couple of hand tools. So making a horn bow, if you have the scale, you can do it in a garden basically, or in the woods outside somewhere. You just need fire and water and a couple of hand tools.
And time and loads of time.
Well, people
Time-taking
had
process.
time back in the day, so you know. And
Yeah, that's
if
true.
you are a hunter, you know your life is depending on it, so you're gonna make sure you know you're gonna build a nice bow for yourself, which will do the job. But
Yeah,
obviously, bows.
You had the Mughal bow to show us as well.
I got a couple of
you
other
were
bows
shooting.
here. I got another Magyar bow here, 9th, 10th century Magyar bow.
So this has got more profound.
Yeah, this one is a little bit different shape, a little bit. Yeah, but when you string it, it's identical.
We do the same.
Yeah,
Just get it closer to the camera. So this was used and shot.
Well, it was a long time ago. It's damaged now, so it's not a functional bow anymore. I wasn't storing it. In
And
a
this
nice
is the
place,
bow we've seen you shoot.
No, this is a Turkish bow.
This is the typical
and
Turkish bow.
unfortunately, it fell off, and it was like for 5 years it was sitting like that. So that side of the limb is bent. So it's just.
You see how tiny that
I'm
thing is.
gonna make new ones. So, but that's a Turkish bow. That's a Turkish one. This is a Mughal bow. What you see me on Facebook.
Yes, that's what I've
that
seen
was
you
a Mughal
shooting
bow.
in a video.
Yeah, that was the Mughal bow.
This
That
is
was-
the
that was
80,
75 pound,
pounds.
that's 28 inches, but this one is damaged now, so it's not working anymore either. So. But you still can see the shape of the bow. And the selic fell out in the center there. But yeah, it's a 75 pound Mughal bow. I took the measurements actually at the Manchester Museum for this one.
For this one. So
Yeah,
another one
yeah.
of the example
Yeah,
of the bow you've
yeah.
seen.
But the Mughal bow
Very
is
impressive shape.
Mughal bow is, it's a very, I mean, this is not, I mean, some of the Mughal bows you can see they are curved all the way up. But I made it this one because it's easier to build it this way. So I thought I'm just gonna use a moderate, you know, like bending area here. But when you string it, it looks exactly the same. It's just the unstrung shape.
It looks very beautiful on the full
The
draw.
unstrung
That's
shape,
really-
yeah. Well, it was, but it's unfortunate it's not functional anymore. But I will build more in the future when I have more time.
So
Well, right now-
when are you going to be making them? Are you going to be taking orders, or are you just going to be simply making it for yourself?
No, if I'm gonna make some, if I make a horn bow, I will obviously put it up on sale, but I'm not planning to take orders on horn bows because I can't guarantee how it comes out bondage wise, for example. I'm not that good yet.
Okay.
It takes time. I mean, if I would be building horn bows only for 20 plus years, then I'm pretty sure I could even say that. But again, some of the horns, even doesn't matter if it looks the same.
It's natural
It's
material.
natural
Yes.
materials. You know, it's difficult to tell how it's gonna come
To
out.
estimate.
But with the horn bow, you're looking at a decently working, functioning horn bow. You need to be at least 80 pounds, 80 to 100 pounds.
Efficiency
At least,
to
yeah,
pay
yeah.
back for it.
To have a decently working horn bow, you need to be somewhere around 80 pounds, yeah, at least. I mean,
Well,
for
I mean-
hunting, you need at least 70, 80
So
pounds.
we definitely going into hornbow, you would recommend for people who are not new starters and maybe
No, not for beginners.
definitely
No.
intermediate archers who want to evolve
No.
the journey. And
No, you need some.
do they really
Knowledge.
do need so much care as many people say about when it comes
If
to
the
stringing
horn bow
and-
is built well. Well, obviously, I assume you watched a couple of videos on the Korean bows. Korean bows are quite tiny, so those bows, yeah, they needed it. But I mean, in the 9th, 10th century, when these bows were around and people were fighting with it, I don't think they cared much.
They were not very
What
delicate.
they
And
had-
also
they had
could
two
not
bows.
be very
They had
delicate.
two bows.
And they could not be very
No.
delicate objects, right?
No. They had 2 bows with them. They had 2 bows. They were using one, and the other one was rusting. And then they swapped the bows, and they were just.
Well, if something happens to the bow,
And that too, yeah.
in the melee can be touched with a sword or something, you have another one.
Well,
maybe.
that would be very bad because these are very precious in that time. So if you want to translate the value of a bow like this in that time to modern day value, I would
Money.
say a car. Value
Oh,
of a
car
car,
value.
of a car,
So it would
yeah.
be used by a wealthy warriors.
It could be passed down to father to son, but when you're looking at really a value in modern days, value of a car easily. Yeah.
Wow, that is impressive.
The value of a decent car. I mean, you know, they valued their weapons and you know, not just the bows. I assume the you know, sabers or swords or whatever they had. You know,
Yes.
the same way, the blades. So yeah, horn.
And just the question, I know probably it's obvious, it's a bow, so any arrows could be shot from the bow. Many people say, can we shoot carbons from horn bows? And
I shot carbons with them,
everything
no
is-
problem, no problem.
as long as you within the minimum GPPs, minimum
on the
arrow
video
weights.
what you saw, I was using a carbon arrow.
Carbon
I actually prefer carbon arrow to wooden arrow myself.
Mm.
So because especially here in this country, you know, when you go out shooting, most of the time the grass is wet. So if you miss, your arrow gets wet.
Yes.
Varnish comes off from your wooden arrow or just gets soaked.
That was one
It's
of the
just-
questions I'm going to ask people, which arrows they like to prefer to use, whether it's mushroom materials or stuff, and many people...
Carbon arrow is not authentic to use with the horn bow,
Yes.
obviously, but I personally, I don't mind using the carbon arrows, absolutely not. And well, you know, if you really want to be that picky, I shouldn't be putting modern string on a horn bow. But I
Correct.
do because
But if somebody would want to use a hamstring or something...
well,
historically,
on these bows
maybe
they use leather, like raw leather as a string,
Mhm.
or tendon, and Turks were using silk.
Silk.
In the 16th, 17th century, they were using silk. So if you want to be really traditional, you can put a silk string on it. But I was just using regular like Decran on it, Decran B50, and you know, works perfectly fine. So I was just happy to make the bows, you know, and I wasn't really mentioning it.
These look very, very, very...
Well, they
very
looked
awesome.
okay a couple of years ago when
No,
they
I
were
mean,
not ruined.
You know, this is probably... I never really shot one, so I can't
Yeah.
really say, but they definitely have a great appeal, and it's definitely something that if you're like me, history orientated, you know, freak, then it's something that's like touching history. It's like touching... Some people made weapons and other objects
Yeah.
the same way that people used to make them.
You were asking about the value of horn bows.
Yes.
You know, why is it that expensive?
Value of it,
Yeah.
yes. That's the mainly questionable thing, and people normally say, with the world of modern archery obsessed with speed, people say, oh, it's not that you pay this much more money and your laminated bow, it also now is very fast, and so what's the point? So can you tell us what is the main...
Well, I can't really, you know.
The materials definitely
The
play the part, right?
Yeah, the materials, for example, this here is actually mountain goat horn from a bow this from Kazakhstan. And this pair here, just the horn, is 120 pounds. This here.
Just that pair?
Yes, just this in my hand. 120 quid I paid for. Just for this. Okay? So it's not the wood, not the sinew, nothing. It's just
one part.
And if you think of this is here, I think this is 30 grams, 40 grams. You need 120 grams on a bow.
So 4 times this.
To process this takes me maybe 4 days, this much.
4 days of your time.
4 days, yeah. Because every strand had to be pulled. Unfortunately, I don't have a tendon here to show you, because when you have the tendon, what comes out of the animal, first you dry it,
Yes.
and then you need to hammer it and pull it apart, and then you will get this fiberglass, ancient fiberglass, you know, something which is the sinew.
But it definitely also hornbow making is an art. You can see it's an art in its own. Probably was a profession back in the day.
It was
very well
it
paid
was not
profession.
just for one person.
Skill.
Villages were living from that. But like I said, this is only 30 grams, or not even 30 grams, and you need at least 120 grams on a decent bow. And this 4 days, this bundle here, it takes me 4 days to do this. And your fingers, your thumb will get really
so the great amount of labor.
So there is
into
work
this on
involved.
top of the materials.
You don't know it until you start. You just don't know it, and it's not just that. The smell of the horn when you processing it. I'm sure you burned your nail before or your hair.
Yes.
So you know that
not
smell.
very pleasant, which
You know that smell. Right?
Yeah.
So think about that smell multiplied, and that goes in your nose, in your brain, and you're gonna smell it everywhere. It's in your skin.
You go to bed, it's still there.
Yeah, you get used to it. It's like smoking a cig.
Yes.
You get used to it. You don't smell it, but everyone else will be smelling it on you. So it has a horrendous smell. But that's just part of it. And
so what's the process, like the time wise, from the start? Let's say you go the materials and
you get the horn.
Time.
You get the horn, and you steam bend the wood. Once you steam bend the wood, it needs to dry for 5 months minimum. So basically you want to have several cores running before you even start making the bow. And then you glue it together. Once you glue it 2-3 days, it's dry actually, 2 or 3 days, and then you can glue the horn on it. First you glue one side, and then you glue the other side, and it takes again 3-4 days to dry the glue and the sinew, and the horn on the wood. And then you start shaping it. You start shaping the bow, bending it, shaping it, make sure it works properly, because you need to reduce this is 15 millimeters in thickness. You need that thickness to be able to bend it and not to break it, and also to attach the horn to the wood core.
And then
so
you can start taking
and then you reduce it to from 15 millimeter to 4.
Wow.
And you start tapering it, so you can work on it for, again, depends on your skill, how fast you are, and couple of days, week, maybe more. And once it's done, you start applying the sinew. And when you do the sinew, you do it at least in 3 different runs, and you need to tie the tip together so you're pulling it in. So when you're doing it, once you put a layer of sinew on it, that has to dry for a couple of days before you put another layer on it. And then once all the layers are on, you need to dry the bow minimum of 6 months. 6 months. That's the minimum. And then you can start opening it slowly. The Turkish use something called tapeliks. These are like bendy wood, and you start bending it, so you can't put strings in it at that point, and the bow might break.
Is that one of them boards with the bolts when they?
You can use that too, but the tapeliks were like a bended wood with a rope on it. So
you yes. Similar way Koreans did with
the Koreans they have a different word for it.
Different word for it.
Yeah, the Turkish use they called it tapelik, but the many nations
will use similar.
Koreans using that as well, but they call it something else in Korean, obviously. So
what fascinating is that.
So I broke so many bows. You wouldn't believe how many bows I broke
during making.
Just when I was trying to open it up.
So after all this time waiting.
Yeah, all this time, waiting. You waited 6 months, 7 months, a year, and then you break it. So it's devastating. But you need to learn. So I went through all that, process. So what I learned on the horn bows, I started using it on the laminated bows. So what I learned, because I'm sure people are interested, how did you learn making laminated bows? This is how I did it. So there's nobody taught me physically. I never learned bow making from anybody like, come here mate and I teach you. It was just these two, and time and error and try again. So it's just you just have to put your time in it.
That's a lot of time.
You need to be, this I want to do this. I want to do this, and I will get it done no matter what.
So when did it started to when you actually moved away from this to making laminated bow? Was it like a process that you did some of the horn bow making and started doing?
Well, I always knew
or
that.
You were thinking maybe you can start earning money on the passion and the
very first laminated bows I made it for myself, because
so it was for your own purpose of shooting.
Yeah, because I bought bows. I had I bought like Grozer and I had Korean bows. I bought them. I even bought an ollie bow once, long time ago, and I was looking at these bows and I said to myself, I can make it better. I can make better bows than the ones I was using. That's why.
Because you're already home bow maker.
Yeah.
And you look at some laminated designs and you thought,
I was using the laminated bows, you know, and the archery club as well, and I said to myself, I can make better bows than these, so I decided to start making them.
And when did it turn into the full-time profession?
Full-time profession, I started making laminated bows in around 2012, and I wasn't making them all the time. I just made one or two, and it just got better, and I decided to start making them in 2016. So
like commercially selling?
Yes, but I still had. I was working in an office at that time, and I was living a double life. Let's say that, because when I wasn't at the office, I was building bows.
So 2 jobs.
Yes, so I was quite tired, and in 2017 I said I can't do this anymore, and I quit that job.
You quit off this job?
I quit that job, and I went full-time bowyer, yeah. So, and I never looked back. So I quite enjoy my life. So
that was the right decision to make?
Yeah, I think so, yeah. I wouldn't do it any other way. So I enjoy what I do, so it feels like I don't have to work.
So you work all day. So let's say, well, they say that find the job you love and you never have to go to work.
That is correct.
Every day in your life. Yeah. So I think we can finish the topic of the hard bows for now, because I'm sure we can talk about it for a long time.